We're here to talk about Download 2023, specifically my experience at Download 2023. Because this year was so massive, it was the 20th anniversary, and with that came quite a few problems as well. Some issues certainly a lot worse than others, and some people certainly had a worse time than others. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my experience and go over a few key points that a lot of people had issues with, and kind of let you know how I got on with those specific things. I'm also going to talk about some of the good stuff as well, because I think this year deserves a lot of praise for the stuff that did go right or was really great this year, because obviously they had a lot to pull off, and this was the biggest download ever. So I'll start with one of the biggest complaints that we had this year, the heat. Now obviously nobody can control the weather, nobody can control what that sun is doing. I don't think any of us expected it to be a complete blasting heat wave over at least 4 of the days of the festival. It just got progressively hotter over the 5 days. By the Sunday, everyone was melting and suffering so much. I know I was. Me and my girlfriend Saffron were dying. We were completely done. We had to push through that last day so much. After doing the hardest walk of our lives to the car, we were so close to going home. But the thought of seeing 3 of our favourite bands at the end of the Sunday just kept us going, and we couldn't miss out on it. But that was the most I've ever suffered anywhere in heat for the longest period of time. It was unbearable. But obviously, yeah, nobody can control the heat. I do think what the arena specifically needed was more shelter from the sun, more shade. On the Saturday and the Sunday, the Dogtooth stage and the Avalanche stage were rammed full of people, basically sitting on top of each other. It was so full because people were so desperate to try and hide from the sun and just get some hours in the cool. They were the only places really where you could sit out of the sun and be slightly cooler. And I feel like somehow next year they need to put up like some other, like, I'm not expecting another massive enormous tent the size of the stage tents, but just a couple of maybe giant, I don't know, gazebos, something that's just got a roof on it in these areas in the corners where there's not a lot going on, where you could easily fit that, especially next year when it's not going to be as sold out. If this is the new normal for Download, and the rain is a thing of the past now, and we're actually, you know, global warming, things are getting hotter, I don't know, summers are getting hotter, the start of June is obviously getting a lot hotter, but I think it might be something to consider next year, because that was bad. People were passing out. I know a lot of people were passing out, a lot of people were really struggling. So moving on to the biggest question of this year, was it oversold? Now I'm really not sure. I feel like they could have maybe sold a few less tickets for this one. They have a way of knowing how full things are going to be. They obviously prepared for that as well. It wasn't as bad as people were constantly having to walk over each other, and you weren't constantly stepping over each other. Like, there was space in certain parts of the arena where you could kind of get away from the biggest crowds and just kind of sit back on the grass. I did that a few times because I think it was definitely far too busy. There was definitely a few far too many people. It felt like that, and I will happily look forward to next year when it's not sold out again. So there was a few big issues with it being so full this year. First big problem that everyone dealt with was the traffic getting into the festival. A lot of people didn't get into the festival until the early hours of the morning, after the entire Wednesday had already finished. I was walking to the doghouse on that first night. I saw people arriving with their stuff. They'd been in that traffic for 8-9 hours. I can't even imagine how stressful and horrible that must have been for them. We actually stayed in a Premier Inn in East Midlands the night before, so we were close to the festival. We still set off around 9 AM. I think we were in the traffic queue from like 11 till 12. It took us about, I don't know, I think maybe it took us about an hour to get in, but that's nothing compared to what it took everyone that arrived later than us. We were one of the lucky ones, and I was worrying that we were going to be one of the ones stuck in the traffic that was bad. So I guess what I'm really saying here is you need to get there early when it's a sold out event. Get there as early as possible. It doesn't matter what you've got on. Sack that off. Screw work, screw your other commitments. Just get there and get in those queues as fast as possible, or you are going to struggle. I really hope we don't have to deal with this again next year. You know, download traffic's always bad, but this was next level insanity. People were missing flights that were going to East Midlands Airport. It was really bad. It made big news as well, so that's record-breaking stuff, I think. The other massive issue with this festival being so full was the queues, specifically for the food vendors, the water supplies, and the showers. Oh, and the toilets as well. I really fucking hated the queues for the showers. It annoyed me so much every morning, and it only seemed to be the men's as well. For the Friday, Saturday and Sunday, every morning, the shower queue was just so insanely long. So for those few days, I didn't even bother going to the showers. I just couldn't bear to be queuing that long. I think what I've discovered about myself during this festival was that I really am not a patient person, and I really fucking hate queues. They make me angry. I'm pretty chill, you know, but they really made me angry. It was really annoying me, and that's where maybe I would have had a little rant to myself or to somebody near me that this festival is oversold, I hate this. Those are the moments where I really wasn't enjoying myself, because I just wanted to be clean. There's nothing worse than being all sweaty hot in your tent and then just to get to the shower and there's just like 100+ men just waiting. You know they're all going to take like 15 minutes each anyway. So I had to go back to my camp most of the time and just pour water over my head just to cool off and just wash myself a little bit. Same with the toilets as well. I never found myself waiting that long to go in, but there was points where the men's toilets, again, were so much busier than the females. Some of the men did end up getting sent into the female toilets every now and then when the queues were just too long, and it was just to get everything moving, which I really appreciated, actually. It was really nice to just be given that option to just go into those more empty, cleaner toilets as well. But yeah, it was fine. Same for the food vendors. I was never waiting that long in the queues for them. There was certainly a lot of food vendors this year, just buying water and stuff as well. That was all great. Like, you never were waiting that long, I guess, so I can't really complain about that. I always managed to get enough food each day, which was cool. Another thing I didn't really enjoy with this year's being so full is some of the people. I think this year attracted a lot of different people that aren't usually the type to go to Download. I hate to say it, but I feel like a lot of people at this year's looked like they belonged at Reading and Leeds Festival more, and they acted like it as well. Me and Saffron had like close-up dealings with this kind of shit in Bring Me the Horizons crowd specifically. The band we were both most looking forward to seeing kind of got ruined for the first half of the set. We were just stood near so many dickheads. They were doing drugs on one side of us. Somebody was fucking pushing someone on the other side of us. With all these drunken, fucked up idiots in front of us that were doing God knows what. I don't know what they were on, but they were just constantly shouting. I couldn't even hear Ollie Sykes' voice for like the first half of the set because of these idiots that just wouldn't shut the hell up. And that's the part what made me think, this isn't the usual Download clientele. This isn't the usual kind of crowds I'm used to, and I'm not really enjoying this. But yeah, again, I'm looking forward to next year when it's not all these kind of people in the crowds and there's a lot less of them. No offense to anybody, by the way. If you're a subscriber here and you enjoy Substances and you are a fan of Reading and Leeds, but you're also looking at my channel, then that's cool. No offense. It just kind of annoyed me in that moment, and it's something that I won't miss next year. That's all I'm saying. Another main issue that I've heard a lot of people have problems with this year is the staff. Whether that was the food vendor people or maybe the security. I've heard that security were throwing people to the ground, behaving extremely aggressively, you know, really just throwing their weight around. Like, the only time I think that stuff is okay, if you're acting like an absolute prick, you're endangering people around you, you're going crazy, you're one of those really obnoxious people in the crowd, you're crowd surfing like an idiot, whatever, I think that's the only time you deserve to be really manhandled and just sorted out, because, not beaten up or anything, but I think you deserve to be sorted out. And when it's just a person enjoying themselves, whatever, like crowd surfers and stuff, just normal ones, and the security are just throwing them to the ground, dragging them around, dragging them over the barriers in the most aggressive forms. They've been trained for this, they know what they're signing up for, they've chosen to be here, like, nobody's forcing them to be here, so they don't need to be, you know, throwing their weight around, acting like big fucking wrestlers. Just, there's no need for it. I've also heard about rude staff in the food vendors, kind of my same argument again. I certainly dealt with a few that were kind of moody seeming, and you know, fair enough, I get that, serving thousands and thousands of people on the day in the hot weather. It must get insanely stressful. I know that I could never do that. But once again, they've chosen to be there. No one is forcing these people to work these festivals. No one is forcing them to be there. Most of the people that served me were very friendly. Shout out to anyone that does work in any of these food vans, anything. You all did a great job, and I can't even imagine the stress that it must be to serve that many people a day. On to my final bad point this year, it's the water. There were so many points on these last few days where I just had to buy water because the queues were so long for the water taps. I really don't think there was enough water supplies this year to deal with everybody there. A lot of the times the queues were enormous. They don't take long to move really, but you know, you are stood behind 100 people sometimes waiting to get water, and nobody wants to be doing that when you're dying in a heat wave, you've just been in a big pit, or you've just been in a big sweaty crowd and you just need water desperately. I think that's something to really consider next year, is more water supplies around. A lot of the times I was giving up on queuing and just going to buy my own bottles of water. My main complaint about this was actually when we were walking back to the car on the last day to take all our stuff, it was hell. It was really bad. I've never felt more like I'm going to pass out before. For some reason I was just so dehydrated. I couldn't seem to, no matter how much I drank, and we were running out of drinks, I couldn't seem to hydrate myself. And it was starting to scare me, to be honest. I was pulling this massive wagon with all the stuff in it. The worst part about this was when we got to the top of Orange Camp, to where there's a couple of stalls just before you go to the car park. One of them had a massive queue and the other one was completely sold out of water. You cannot be running out of water. If this is what the weather is going to be like from now on, you need to just dedicate more stalls just to selling water bottles, nothing else. Some people are desperately suffering. It's not even being dramatic. When the heat is that intense, you are suffering. You need water immediately. I don't know how true this is. I've not really looked into it, but I heard that a couple of people did die in the car park queues getting out of Download because they didn't have any water. No staff were around to help them, and that's it. Like, that's awful. It's horrible to think about. I can't even imagine. Next year I don't want to see anywhere saying we've sold out of water, because that's just, you can't sell out of water. You need to have it constantly. Alright, so that was the main bad points that kind of related to some of my experiences as well as a lot of other people's. I did say I was going to talk a little bit about the good stuff, so let's give some credit to the good things. Number one is the toilet cleanliness for me this year. I have been in some awful looking toilets in my time at Download. For the most part this year, especially in Blue Camp where I was camped, actually in the arena as well. The toilet's upkeep was so good. Constantly staffed there with toilet roll as well. In previous years, that's not happened. They were there every morning cleaning them out with this big truck. They were making sure everywhere had toilet roll constantly. They were making sure the hand sanitizers were topped up. There was a couple of times I went into some of the portalies and the toilet seats weren't even attached anymore, so obviously, you know, that probably wasn't an easily fixable thing, but for the most part, yeah, just well done to the staff that works the toilets. That is obviously a really shit job, pun intended. Thank you to anybody that was working those toilets every morning, every day, keeping them clean for us. I've got to give a shout out to the bands, don't I? The bands were amazing. Obviously, one of the biggest highlights of this year's festival was the bands. I feel like I've seen enough Metallica for a lifetime now. Like, if I never saw Metallica again, I would die happily knowing that I've seen them these 2 times at Download. I really actually enjoyed them. A lot of people were saying they're really boring, and yeah, they were my least favourite headliner at the festival too, but they weren't boring. If you were close enough, I don't think they were boring at all, and when they played their biggest hits, I thought it was really cool. These guys are in their late 50s, early 60s now, right? So, you know, it's not going to be the most amazing, energetic set you've ever seen in your life. I think they did an amazing job. I think James Hetfield is amazing at interacting with the crowd, talking to us, making us laugh, you know, making his dad jokes. I thought that was really good. I Prevail, Bring Me the Horizon, Parkway Drive, Architects, Motionless in White, another amazing set, The Amity Affliction, 3 Days Grace, State Champs, Neck Deep, Pendulum, and Caskets. All of them amazing sets. I really enjoyed every single one. It was really important to me that I enjoyed those last few bands on the Sunday. I had I Prevail, Parkway Drive, and Slipknot all in a row. I was really pushing through to enjoy those, and they all put on such amazing shows that I forgot about how much I was actually struggling because I enjoyed them so much. Finally, I just want to give praise to the setup this year. I thought a lot of things were really, really good. I thought the campsites were certainly big enough to fit everyone in. They were not that far from the village either. The walk to the village was great. The village setup was awesome. I loved how the village was set up again, like the 2022s. For the most part, I loved the doghouse and the side splitter as well. There was plenty of food, plenty of clothing stalls to look around. I really did appreciate all of this. In the arena, I thought it was really cool having all the previous lineups on posters as well. That was really cool. The way they cleared out so much space in the arena this year for all the people to kind of fill that area where there's usually rides. Really enjoyed that, actually. I sat in that area like a few times during some of the bands that I didn't care about seeing as much, just to get away from the biggest crowds. It was all set up really nicely. I think they actually did a really good job with that. The main problem was how many people there were this year. That's like, it all comes down to that. Download has never had to deal with this many amount of people before. Obviously, it's not going to be a sold out 20th anniversary event again, so there's always that to consider as well. So all in all, yeah, I had an amazing time at Download. I loved meeting so many of you who support my channel, who follow me on social medias, whatever. It was so cool to have that many people coming up to me. Right, I need to end this now. Feel free to tell me some of your experiences in the comments below. Tell me what you thought went right, tell me what you thought went wrong, tell me what the worst thing happened to you was, I don't know. It's all interesting. I'm going to try and keep talking about this thing for the next few months, because what else have I got to do, right? So thanks again, and I'll see you real soon for some more videos.